Have you ever felt drained, frustrated, or just stuck after dealing with certain people in your life? Imagine discovering a simple yet powerful strategy that could instantly reclaim your peace, boost your energy, and protect your happiness. In today's story, we're uncovering exactly who these problematic personalities are and, more importantly, how to handle them with grace and strength. You might recognize them: the chronic complainers, the subtle manipulators, the relentless drama seekers. But here's the twist. You won't just learn who to avoid. You'll discover a life-changing perspective on maintaining harmony, even amid negativity. Curious about how this simple shift could transform your daily experiences and personal relationships? Stay tuned until the end of the video for the surprising conclusion. And if you're inspired by life wisdom, don't forget to subscribe. Join our growing community of thoughtful, empowered individuals right now. Life philosophies often serve as guiding compasses that help us navigate through the challenges and complexities of our daily routines. Among these philosophies, Stoicism remains one of the most enduring and influential schools of thought. Traced back to ancient Greece and Rome, Stoicism offers practical wisdom for coping with adversity, cultivating inner peace, and developing greater self-awareness. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, once remarked that we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. This statement underlines the importance of our mental perspective. The stories we weave in our minds often hold more weight than external events themselves. However, if we examine our everyday experiences, a notable source of this imagined suffering could stem from the people we surround ourselves with. When we consistently share space, be it physical, emotional, or virtual, with individuals who inject negativity, manipulation, or incessant complaints into our environment, our emotional equilibrium can suffer. Consider life as a journey. On this path, every single step we take is shaped by a conscious or subconscious choice, and each choice has the power to either strengthen our resilience or drain our mental energy. Along this journey, a variety of companions might join us. Some provide encouragement and valuable insights, while others introduce friction, negativity, or chaos. Stoic philosophy encourages us to cultivate discernment so that we can determine which individuals are conducive to our well-being and which are detrimental. When we talk about saying no to certain people, we are not necessarily advocating outright rejection or harsh treatment. Instead, the emphasis is on setting healthy boundaries, understanding our limits, and preserving our inner tranquility. This perspective finds resonance in another famous Stoic teaching from Epictetus, who emphasized the distinction between what is within our control and what is beyond it. Our own thoughts, feelings, and actions lie largely within our control, whereas external circumstances and the behaviors of other people remain unpredictable. Recognizing this line between what we can and cannot govern is the cornerstone of emotional freedom. By applying this principle to our relationships and social interactions, we see that we cannot single-handedly change other people's attitudes or behaviors. However, we can certainly determine how much of their negativity we let into our minds. In the conversation that follows, we will examine 10 specific personality types whose outlooks or behaviors can challenge our emotional resilience and inner balance. While no single individual is defined solely by one negative trait, people are complex and multifaceted. Certain dispositions do recur often enough that they become identifiable patterns. By labeling these patterns and understanding how they clash with Stoic ideals of tranquility, rationality, and self-governance, we arm ourselves with greater self-awareness and the ability to protect our mental well-being. We will present each of these 10 types, along with insights drawn from Stoic teachings. For each personality type, there will be recommended strategies to handle or, if necessary, avoid the draining influences these individuals can cast upon our lives. The message here is clear. Learning to say no to those who compromise our peace is also an emphatic yes to our own serenity and self-development. But remember, this no can be conveyed through careful boundary setting and respectful detachment. It does not demand hostility or disdain. Let us begin our exploration by uncovering how Stoicism can guide us in dealing with the first type, the complainers. Before diving into the specific categories of challenging personalities, it's vital to clarify the Stoic rationale for responding to negativity in the first place. Central to the Stoic framework is the idea that a tranquil mind is not passive or indifferent to the world, but rather proactive in its pursuit of virtue and wisdom. From Marcus Aurelius to Epictetus, we find repeated encouragement to remain composed, rational, and reflective, even in the face of adversity. The journey toward inner peace is never about avoidance of reality. It is instead about honest engagement with what life presents us, coupled with a disciplined approach to managing our reactions. When we talk about saying no to certain people, Stoicism invites us to remember that no is a powerful tool for maintaining mental clarity. At its core, a Stoic no protects our limited emotional resources from needless depletion. If we find ourselves expending immense mental effort on individuals who perpetually bring stress, conflict, or confusion, we risk being diverted from constructive pursuits that foster personal growth and community well-being. Discerning the right time and manner to say no can be a compassionate act for ourselves as well as for the other person. It is compassionate to ourselves because it safeguards the mental and emotional conditions we need for a fulfilling life. It is compassionate to the other person because it delineates clear boundaries that might ultimately encourage them to reconsider their approach. However, boundary setting must be balanced with empathy. Stoicism does not endorse cruelty or complete detachment from the struggles of others. Instead, it teaches us to respond from a place of understanding, without sacrificing our well-being. Saying no to negativity can be approached with empathy by acknowledging that each person has their own difficulties and mental frameworks shaping their behavior. In many cases, a simple shift in the tone of our response, or an effort to reframe a gloomy perspective, can have a transformative impact. Yet, if the negative patterns persist and begin to corrode our sense of stability, we have a responsibility, both to ourselves and to those who rely on our well-being, to limit exposure to that destructive dynamic. In this article, we will address 10 types of individuals who challenge this equilibrium: the complainers, the manipulators, the egotistical, the irresponsible, the envious, the materialistic, the fearful, the toxically positive, the narcissistic, and the drama seekers. Each type will be illustrated with examples that demonstrate how their behaviors conflict with key Stoic teachings, such as self-control, acceptance of reality, communal harmony, and the focus on inner virtue rather than external validation. As we embark on this analytical journey, keep in mind that our intention is not to label or condemn people permanently. Human behavior is fluid, and any individual can have a mixture of these traits in varying degrees. Instead, by identifying these recurring patterns, we empower ourselves to handle potentially toxic interactions more wisely. In the following paragraphs, we begin our exploration with the first problematic type, the complainers. Alongside them, we'll examine constructive ways to remain empathetic yet protected, adhering to Stoic principles of balanced engagement and rational response. The first category we encounter is the complainers. These are individuals who seem to possess a remarkable talent for spotting the negative in every situation. They might express their mindset through statements such as, "Nothing goes right for me. It's always one thing after another," or, "Why do these things keep happening?" While it is natural to feel disheartened or upset from time to time, the hallmark of a chronic complainer is their entrenched habit of interpreting most events, big or small, as unfair or detrimental. Stoic philosophy teaches us that our perceptions largely shape our sense of well-being. Epictetus put it succinctly when he remarked, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Chronic complainers, unfortunately, react to events through a lens of perpetual dissatisfaction, making them an easy catalyst for others to adopt similarly bleak outlooks. To illustrate this, picture yourself at a social gathering where conversations should ideally uplift or entertain. A chronic complainer joins the circle and swiftly steers the dialogue toward the disheartening aspects of their day, their career, or even the broader world. Despite attempts to shift to a more positive or constructive subject, they continue to dwell on grievances. The effect on the group can be palpable. Laughter may subside, body language may become tense, and any sense of joyful or relaxed camaraderie fades. Stoicism recognizes the importance of empathy, but it also stresses that we must shield our serenity from external negativity when it proves unrelenting. A balanced Stoic approach involves listening to the complainer with genuine compassion, acknowledging their feelings without allowing them to derail your emotional equilibrium. In practical terms, you might briefly affirm their concern, saying something like, "I can understand why you feel upset," but then carefully steer the conversation towards solutions or alternative perspectives. When the complainer continues to dwell solely on problems, it may be time to diplomatically create a boundary. A simple pivot can be, "I hear how frustrating that is, but perhaps focusing on what can be changed might help." This not only preserves your mental energy, but might also encourage them to see a potential way forward. Yet what if the complainer resists every attempt at positive reframing? In such cases, Seneca's reflection that we often suffer more in our imaginations than in reality is especially apt. Allowing our thoughts to be consistently hijacked by another's negativity can erode our own well-being. If you find a certain individual's ceaseless complaints turning you pessimistic about your own circumstances, consider implementing firmer measures. These could include limiting your interaction duration, suggesting professional help if they continually dwell in a state of crisis, or even gently but frankly mentioning that you need to protect your mental space. By applying Stoic principles in these interactions, you remain both empathetic and self-aware. You demonstrate compassion by listening to their feelings, yet uphold your psychological wellness by establishing boundaries. This is the heart of saying no to negativity without rejecting the person entirely, an important tenet we will see repeated in other personality types as well. Next, let us address those who employ more overt manipulation, the manipulators. While complainers drain your spirits through relentless negativity, manipulators can stealthily erode your sense of autonomy and self-worth. These individuals may employ guilt, obligation, or subtle coercion to steer situations in their favor. Common manipulative lines include, "If you really cared about me, you'd do this," or "I've done so much for you, why won't you help me now?" The essence of manipulation lies in blurring the boundary between genuine assistance and coerced compliance. Stoicism emphasizes sincerity, self-respect, and moral integrity in interpersonal dealings, all values that stand at odds with underhanded or coercive tactics. Seneca observed that nothing is so bitter that a calm mind cannot find comfort in it. When it comes to dealing with manipulators, this calm mind is crucial. They might attempt to provoke fear, guilt, or a sense of indebtedness in you. By maintaining composure, you can keep a clear perspective on what's actually taking place. For instance, imagine a friend who constantly demands favors, running errands, providing financial help, or defending them in social conflicts. Initially, you might oblige out of a spirit of kindness. Over time, however, you realize that the exchange is one-sided and heavily laden with guilt trips. A Stoic approach begins by pausing to evaluate whether the request aligns with your values and whether fulfilling it fosters genuine goodwill or simply feeds an imbalanced dynamic. To navigate these situations, Epictetus's guidance on distinguishing between what is within and beyond our control becomes essential. You can control your own actions and clarify whether you have the capacity, financial, emotional, or logistical, to meet the request. You cannot, however, control the manipulator's disappointment or frustration if you choose to decline. Setting boundaries in a respectful yet firm manner can be as simple as saying, "I understand you need help, but I'm not able to commit to that right now." A manipulator might intensify their pressure upon hearing your refusal. That is precisely when Stoic self-awareness must step in. Recognize that their subsequent emotional response belongs to them, not to you. In some cases, a manipulator's behaviors might emerge from deep-rooted insecurities or past traumas. While compassion for their struggles is laudable, it must not come at the expense of your serenity. You can offer solutions, like suggesting they seek professional help or providing resources for better time or stress management. Nevertheless, if their pattern of manipulation persists, Stoicism grants you permission to protect your peace by curtailing further involvement. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote in his Meditations that we should waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. And being a good person here entails not only generosity, but also dignity and self-respect. By consciously saying no to manipulative maneuvers, you honor your own moral and emotional boundaries. This stance also, somewhat paradoxically, benefits the manipulator. By refusing to enable their problematic behavior, you give them space to reflect on healthier ways to relate to others. Having explored both complainers and manipulators, we now turn to another group that can disrupt the Stoic ideal of humility and balanced community engagement: the egotistical. Interacting with the egotistical can often feel like being trapped in a monologue where your presence and experiences become secondary or trivial. These individuals might routinely dominate conversations by recounting their accomplishments in grandiose detail, dismissing others' contributions, and framing every scenario to highlight their superior role. Statements such as, "No one can do it better than me," or "You should see how I handled it, you'll never match that," reveal a mindset that runs counter to core Stoic teachings about humility and community-mindedness. Marcus Aurelius, who was himself an emperor yet endeavored to live by Stoic principles, frequently reminded himself of life's transience and the common bond shared by all human beings. In his Meditations, he underscores how self-centered arrogance distorts our perception, preventing us from seeing the innate value in others. The egotistical, however, typically view themselves as the main act, relegating everyone else to the status of a supporting cast. In such interactions, it can be challenging to maintain patience and avoid feeling overshadowed or diminished. To handle these encounters effectively, Stoicism advises a tempered approach. Remain respectful but grounded. Sometimes the egotistical inflate themselves because they crave external validation or fear insignificance. By listening attentively and acknowledging their perspective, you may disarm their need for showboating. However, healthy boundaries must still be upheld. For instance, in a team setting where one member persistently insists they carry the entire group's success on their shoulders, you might respond with both affirmation and gentle redirection. You could say, "Your accomplishments are indeed valuable. Let's also recognize the unique roles the rest of the team has played." This statement validates their effort without diminishing others, aligning with Epictetus's assertion that we should speak sparingly and thoughtfully, focusing on constructive dialogue rather than flattery or contest. Stoic discipline also entails self-reflection during these exchanges. Notice if you feel resentful, ignored, or triggered by the person's self-centeredness. Emotions like anger or envy could arise, but a Stoic approach teaches us to pause and examine why we feel that way. Are we personally offended by not receiving enough attention? or by the injustice of their dismissive attitude toward others. Identifying these internal reactions helps us respond rather than react, choosing words and actions that are aligned with reason and virtue. Ultimately, you can say no to the egotistical when their behavior consistently undermines your sense of shared respect or drains your energy. This might mean reducing the frequency of one-on-one interactions or diplomatically shifting group conversations to a more balanced exchange. The purpose of such boundary setting is not to shame or belittle them, but to protect your personal serenity and the harmony of the collective environment. Since Stoicism emphasizes the fluidity and interconnectedness of people, even an egotistical individual is part of the broader tapestry of humanity. The goal is to help preserve your inner equilibrium while not entirely abandoning the possibility that they might grow or change if met with patient, respectful, yet firm responses. Next, we will examine how Stoicism addresses a different but equally challenging trait: irresponsibility. Irresponsibility manifests when individuals consistently fail to meet obligations, shirking duties in a way that forces others to shoulder their neglected tasks. Whether it's habitually arriving late to group commitments, missing deadlines at work, or consistently failing to honor promises, the irresponsible person strains social and professional relationships. Stoic teachings, notably echoed by Marcus Aurelius, emphasize the importance of playing our part in the grand orchestra of life. Each individual holds responsibilities, big or small, that contribute to the harmony of the community. When a person repeatedly neglects these responsibilities, chaos and resentment can ensue, fraying the social fabric. Stoicism underscores the value of discipline and reliability. For example, consider a workplace scenario. A colleague who habitually forgets to submit crucial reports forces others to scramble at the last minute, sometimes jeopardizing deadlines or client relationships. This consistent pattern not only burdens the team but can breed animosity as others feel exploited. A Stoic approach first requires an honest assessment of the situation and your internal responses. Are you harboring anger or bitterness? Are you enabling their irresponsibility by covering for them too often? In acknowledging these emotional responses, you can then decide on the most constructive course of action. An initial step might involve open communication. Many times, irresponsibility can stem from disorganization, overwhelming external stress, or a lack of awareness about the repercussions of one's actions. You might approach the colleague by calmly highlighting the outcomes of their actions. When your reports are late, it forces the rest of us to stay late to compensate. This approach stays factual and avoids attacking them personally. However, if this pattern persists, despite clear discussions, Stoic philosophy justifies setting firmer boundaries, allocating tasks differently, imposing clear consequences, or consulting a supervisor if it's a professional context. In more personal relationships, be it with friends or family, irresponsibility might manifest as an ongoing cycle where you're left to tidy up after repeated oversights. Stoicism reminds us we can control only our choices, not the choices of others. Therefore, you might respond by politely declining to take on any additional load when you suspect that the person is abdicating their fair share of the work. For instance, you can state, "I understand you're busy, but it's important that each of us handle our part. I'm not in a position to do it for you this time." By doing so, you are neither cruel nor unhelpful. Rather, you're choosing self-respect and balanced reciprocity in your relationships. Through this lens, saying no to an irresponsible individual involves withdrawing from their cycle of unfulfilled promises and shifting responsibility back to them. This can be an eye-opening moment for them to recognize the actual impact of their behavior. While it won't guarantee change, it protects your own psychological and emotional resources. According to Seneca, every challenge can serve as an opportunity to practice virtue. In this case, the virtues of patience, honesty, and assertiveness. Next, let us consider a closely related but distinctly different group, the envious. Envy is a corrosive emotion rooted in comparison, often manifesting in persistent resentment toward the achievements, possessions, or perceived advantages of others. If you have ever encountered someone who greets your successes with a half-hearted smile or seems to covertly undermine your confidence with statements like, "Why do you always get everything?" or "You're so lucky, I never catch a break," then you have come into contact with the envious. Within Stoic teachings, one of the fundamental instructions is to avoid allowing external circumstances, wealth, status, or appearance, to define our sense of self-worth. Epictetus advocated for finding contentment within ourselves rather than chasing validation from outside sources. The envious, however, are trapped in an endless cycle of measuring their own worth against what others possess. This cycle of envy not only poisons their outlook but also erodes the social bonds that hold friendships or communal teams together. Imagine working hard to achieve a promotion, only to receive lukewarm congratulations from an envious coworker who promptly shifts the focus onto how the system is rigged or how they themselves have always been overlooked. Such responses can quickly deflate your sense of accomplishment. Stoicism proposes a balanced approach in these situations, one that merges empathy with the preservation of inner tranquility. First, consider the perspective of the envious person. Their envy often arises from deep insecurities and a feeling of lack in their own life. While it's not your duty to solve their self-esteem issues, a compassionate approach may involve acknowledging their feelings and reiterating that each individual's journey is unique. For instance, if they diminish your achievement by calling it mere luck, you could respond calmly with, "There was hard work involved, but I can see that everyone faces different hurdles." This balanced acknowledgement affirms your efforts while also leaving open the possibility that they, too, can overcome obstacles with dedication. Nonetheless, Stoicism emphasizes that you are not responsible for altering someone else's emotional pattern, particularly when it becomes a drain on your mental state. If their envy consistently taints your achievements or fosters an atmosphere of rivalry and bitterness, you have the right to set limits on how you engage with them. You may choose to steer conversations away from topics you know trigger their envy, or, if the relationship becomes too toxic, reduce your overall contact with them. It is crucial to remember that Stoicism does not advocate arrogance in the face of another's envy. Rather, it counsels us to remain humble about our own successes. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly stressed how fleeting external accolades can be, reminding us that life and fortune can change in an instant. By internalizing this humbling truth, you not only protect yourself from vanity but also avoid feeding the envious person's perception that your achievements put you on a pedestal. When your own sense of worth is grounded in your character and virtues rather than your possessions or social standing, it becomes harder for envy, yours or another's, to disrupt your equilibrium. Next, we turn to those whose preoccupation with material goods can overshadow deeper human values. The materialistic are those who believe that possessions, status symbols, and external luxuries are the keys to fulfillment and respect. From fancy cars to designer clothes, their worldview often hinges on the assumption that more is always better. You might hear them proclaim, "If only I had that new gadget, I'd be truly happy," or, "Without the right brand names, nobody will take me seriously." In Stoic thought, such preoccupations are seen as misguided because they place happiness on external items that are inherently transient and beyond complete control. According to Epictetus, true wealth is not amassed by accumulating more, but by desiring less. While there is nothing inherently wrong with enjoying nice things or having financial goals, the materialistic mindset becomes problematic when it overshadows moral values, relationships, and the pursuit of virtue. Consider a friend who is so fixated on purchasing the latest high-end fashion pieces that they dismiss the simple pleasures of spending time with loved ones or cultivating personal talents. The Stoic approach here encourages us to engage with the materialistic person by gently probing deeper values. You could inquire, what do you believe these items bring you on a personal level? Or, do you ever worry that this kind of fulfillment might be short-lived? Such questions can create moments of introspection. However, it is important to recognize that not everyone is ready for that introspection. Some may cling to their materialistic pursuits because letting go means confronting uncomfortable, existential questions about self-worth and purpose. In these cases, Stoicism guides us to cultivate our own detachment. When bombarded with stories of extravagant spending or constant reminders that you need a certain product to be considered successful, pause and reflect on your own values. Ask whether this resonates with your pursuit of wisdom and tranquility, or if it starts to destabilize your contentment with what you already have. If maintaining friendship with a materialistic person becomes mentally exhausting, perhaps because they constantly belittle simpler lifestyles or measure your worth by your possessions, you may need to assert a respectful boundary. This can be as straightforward as declining invitations to shopping sprees you neither enjoy nor endorse. Alternatively, you might redirect conversations toward shared interests that do not revolve around consumerism, such as outdoor activities, creative hobbies, or community service. Ultimately, Stoicism does not demand we shun all luxuries or condemn those who enjoy them. Rather, it teaches that our inner virtue should never be compromised in the pursuit of external goods. Seneca himself was wealthy yet advocated for regular exercises and voluntary simplicity, such as occasionally dining on plain meals and sleeping in modest conditions, to remind himself that happiness does not hinge on luxury. By carrying this perspective into your interactions with the materialistic, you embody a living example of the Stoic conviction that external trappings should serve us, not rule us. Now that we have explored complainers, manipulators, the egotistical, the irresponsible, the envious, and the materialistic, we will move to part 2, where we examine 4 more challenging personality types and delve deeper into maintaining composure in the face of negativity. In the continuum of challenging personalities, the fearful stand out for their tendency to live in a perpetual state of what if. They might shy away from new job opportunities, relationships, or even minor adventures, repeatedly voicing concerns like, "What if I fail?" or "I'd rather not risk it at all." While caution can be prudent, the hallmark of the fearful is that they allow anxiety to be the decisive factor in nearly all their life choices. The Stoics promoted courage and the acceptance of impermanence, reminding us that trying and occasionally failing is part of the human experience. Consider a close friend who has contemplated a career move for years but consistently talks themselves out of it. They dwell on worst-case scenarios, job insecurity, financial setbacks, or potential embarrassment. As you try to offer support or suggest actionable steps, their immediate responses are usually laced with reasons it just won't work. Stoicism advises that when meeting such deeply ingrained fear, a healthy mixture of empathy and realism helps. We can empathize by recognizing that fear is a universal emotion, not something to trivialize. At the same time, we can encourage them to think about what they control, their preparation, mindset, and willingness to learn from mistakes. Epictetus's practice of premeditation malorum, or the premeditation of evils, can be particularly instructive here. The idea is not to wallow in negative expectations, but to proactively imagine possible difficulties so that you can prepare emotionally and practically. For the fearful, walking through the hypothetical worst can sometimes defang it, transforming it from an unconquerable monster into a manageable problem. From a Stoic perspective, you might guide a fearful friend to list actionable steps they can take if certain obstacles emerge. If finances are the primary concern in a potential career change, propose small steps like budgeting or part-time freelancing. By turning an overwhelming fear into step-by-step planning, you align with Stoic wisdom that fosters deliberate, rational engagement with reality. However, if the fearful individual remains unyielding and constantly attempts to spread their anxiety to you, perhaps warning you about your own endeavors by highlighting endless what-if disasters, this is where saying no becomes necessary. While compassion is vital, so is safeguarding your sense of possibility and resilience. You can gently but firmly clarify that although you respect their reservations, you choose to balance foresight with optimism. If persistent fear-mongering continues to affect your mindset, it may be necessary to limit the frequency or depth of interactions around certain topics. Stoicism's call to live in accordance with nature includes recognizing that change, uncertainty, and risk are woven into the fabric of life. Resisting these truths out of fear can lead to stagnation and missed opportunities. By encouraging small, rationally planned risks and demonstrating that courage is rewarded with growth, you offer a constructive counterpoint to someone ruled by fear. Yet your own peace must remain intact. This dynamic sets the stage for our next subject, the toxically positive, who dwell at the opposite end of the emotional spectrum. At first glance, positivity might seem like a breath of fresh air compared to the gloom of the fearful. However, an extreme form of positivity, often referred to as toxic positivity, can be equally damaging because it denies or invalidates real struggles and emotions. These individuals may respond to every problem with a relentless, "it's all good," or "just stay positive," turning a blind eye to legitimate concerns. While a generally optimistic attitude can be beneficial, toxic positivity oversimplifies life's challenges and can lead to shallow solutions that ignore genuine hardship. The Stoics, in contrast, advocate an acceptance of reality paired with rational action. Marcus Aurelius frequently emphasized observing events as they truly are without masking their gravity or significance. If we constantly insist that everything is fine, we might miss opportunities for meaningful change or improvement. For instance, if a colleague or friend is undergoing a serious crisis, loss of a job, a health challenge, or a family struggle, the toxically positive person might respond, "Just think happy thoughts and it'll go away." This denies the complexity of the situation and may leave the distressed individual feeling unheard and unsupported. Interacting with someone who embodies toxic positivity requires a delicate balancing act. We don't want to extinguish their hopeful spirit, but we must also advocate for a realistic view of life's difficulties. One approach is to affirm their intent, perhaps acknowledging that positivity has its place, while gently bringing attention to the unvarnished facts. You could say, "I appreciate your optimism. It's also vital to recognize the specific problem here and figure out how to address it." This statement both respects the value of optimism and underscores that certain situations need more than simple cheerleading. If you find that a person's toxic positivity repeatedly infringes upon your ability to address serious challenges, setting boundaries might be necessary. For example, you might choose to exclude them from certain discussions, where a more measured or analytical approach is crucial. Stoicism does not dismiss the importance of positivity. It merely warns against any extreme perspective that blinds us to what truly is. One of the fundamental lessons from Stoic texts is that genuine tranquility emerges from knowing that adversity is part of the human condition and responding to it with courage and rational planning. Refusing to acknowledge adversity, by painting a veneer of perpetual sunshine, can hinder personal growth. It robs us of the chance to cultivate resilience, problem-solving skills, and empathy. Seneca, in his letters, remarked that facing and understanding difficulties helps us refine our virtues. Therefore, a too rosy worldview can paradoxically stifle growth by denying the impetus to evolve. If you're feeling steamrolled by someone's insistent positivity, it's perfectly valid to respond with a gentle but firm no to that mindset. By doing so, you preserve a more balanced emotional landscape for yourself, acknowledging both life's joys and its hardships. Having covered the extremes of excessive fear and relentless optimism, let's now consider another challenging category: the narcissistic. Narcissistic individuals, somewhat akin to the egotistical, are driven by an inflated sense of self-importance and a deep need for admiration. Yet narcissism often goes beyond mere self-centeredness. There is a pronounced tendency to manipulate social situations so that they remain the focal point of attention. Such individuals might say, "Nobody else can measure up to me," or display constant frustration if they aren't given the spotlight in a group setting. A hallmark trait of narcissism is a near-complete disregard for other people's emotional realities unless it serves to bolster their own ego. From a Stoic perspective, this kind of behavior disrupts the ideal of living in harmony with one another and recognizing our shared nature as social beings. Marcus Aurelius consistently reminded himself of the interconnectedness of human life, urging us to act in ways that support the collective good. The narcissistic person, however, prioritizes their personal narrative and grandiose self-heat above any sense of communal well-being. This can lead them to trample on others' feelings or contributions. Engaging with narcissistic individuals requires a stoic blend of calm detachment and strategic communication. When a narcissistic person begins to monopolize a conversation, you might listen politely, acknowledging the good in what they say, then tactfully redirect the discussion to include others. If they respond with hostility or attempt to regain control through insults or manipulative remarks, Stoicism encourages emotional composure. Recognize that their reaction stems from their own insecurities and does not necessitate a personal sense of injury. As Epictetus advises, it's not the external event, but our interpretation that can cause emotional turmoil. In practical scenarios, you might encounter a narcissistic coworker who consistently demands praise or undermines colleagues to appear superior. You can address this situation constructively by pointing to factual data or team-based accomplishments, emphasizing shared victories rather than individual feats. Such an approach can subtly challenge the narcissistic individual's self-centered narrative, although real transformation on their part may be slow or uncertain. Stoicism also reminds us to set limits when detrimental behavior persists. Suppose a narcissistic family member constantly criticizes you in front of others to inflate their own sense of superiority. You have every right to calmly say, "I value respectful dialogue, I'm open to feedback, but I won't tolerate personal attacks." If they remain dismissive, you might restrict the types of situations in which you interact with them, perhaps limiting your presence at gatherings where their toxic remarks tend to escalate. By saying no to a narcissist's attempts to dominate or demean, you uphold your self-respect and maintain your emotional stability. You simultaneously signal that social engagement is a reciprocal dynamic, not a one-sided admiration session. While Stoicism teaches empathy for individuals burdened by their own illusions, it also clearly asserts that protecting your moral and emotional equilibrium is paramount. In the next section, we'll address yet another group that thrives on interpersonal chaos rather than personal glory: the drama seekers. Drama seekers seem perpetually drawn to or even fueled by conflict, tension, and sensationalism. Rather than seeking solutions, they might spread rumors, ignite disputes, or intensify minor disagreements into major confrontations. You might hear them say, "Did you hear the latest about so-and-so?" Or, "There's always trouble with that person." These individuals often see life as a series of dramatic episodes in which they can play starring roles, stirring the pot whenever events become too calm. Their emotional volatility stands in contrast to the Stoic pursuit of tranquility, rational problem-solving, and measured responses. Stoic teachings emphasize that we should differentiate between what genuinely concerns us and what lies beyond our sphere of immediate responsibility or interest. Drama seekers frequently entangle themselves and attempt to entangle others in issues that serve no constructive purpose and can't be resolved productively. If you notice that being around a drama seeker leaves you feeling unsettled or anxious, it might be because you are being pulled into emotional chaos that you neither caused nor can remedy. Marcus Aurelius's counsel to ask of every action, "Is this necessary?" becomes particularly relevant here. Much of the drama that drama seekers stir up is entirely unnecessary. To manage drama seekers effectively, a Stoic approach encourages self-awareness and restraint. When they initiate gossip or try to provoke reactionary emotions, resist the urge to fuel the fire. You can remain neutral or respond with brief, non-committal answers that do not escalate tension, such as, "I'm not sure about that," or "It might be better to discuss this directly with the person involved." By refusing to gratify their appetite for spectacle, you subtly communicate that you're not a willing participant in their theatrics. However, if drama seekers persist or escalate their behavior, it may be time to either redirect the conversation deliberately or remove yourself from the situation. This is the Stoics' version of saying no to unwarranted chaos. You could literally excuse yourself, "I think I'll head out, I have something else to do," or calmly state, "I prefer not to engage in this kind of speculation." Be prepared for pushback. Drama seekers often thrive on evoking a strong response, so a measured refusal can be disconcerting to them. Still, your emotional equilibrium is worth preserving, and by maintaining composure, you also set an example of calm rationality. On a deeper level, drama seekers may be grappling with internal turbulence, sometimes rooted in insecurity or a craving for attention, that drives them to create external turmoil. While you can have compassion for their emotional struggles, it's not your obligation to feed their need for upheaval. According to Seneca, inner tranquility is achievable by focusing on self-improvement and letting go of matters beyond our control. Engaging repeatedly in someone else's orchestrated drama is indeed beyond your control. Setting boundaries becomes an act of self-preservation and a step toward living in accordance with nature, free from the waves of unnecessary emotional turbulence. At this juncture, we have identified and discussed the 10 types of individuals who can challenge our peace: complainers, manipulators, egotistical, irresponsible, envious, materialistic, fearful, toxically positive, narcissistic, and drama seekers. In the paragraphs ahead, we will deepen our exploration of Stoic strategies for preserving tranquility and outline how applying no can be an affirming stance for our mental and emotional well-being. Having named these 10 types, it is vital to remember that no human being is entirely one trait. Human personalities are complex tapestries woven from experience, upbringing, and individual struggles. Nonetheless, recurring patterns of negativity, manipulation, or chaos can significantly undermine your personal serenity and your capacity for virtuous action in the world. Stoicism is uniquely equipped to help us identify these patterns and respond in ways that safeguard our mental and emotional resources. The Stoic principle of living in accordance with nature highlights that we are inherently rational and social beings. Our rational nature guides us to align decisions with reason rather than letting destructive emotions or confusion take the driver's seat. Our social nature acknowledges that we're all interconnected and that our actions ripple out to influence those around us. However, This interconnection does not mean we should accept toxic behavior in our lives without discernment. If a personal or professional relationship consistently disrupts your sense of harmony, Stoicism grants you the autonomy to set boundaries and to say no as an affirmation of self-respect. Imagine for a moment that your life is a garden. Through time and effort, you cultivate seeds of virtues such as courage, wisdom, and compassion. If certain individuals function like invasive weeds, stunting your growth and sapping your resources, you are not duty-bound to let them proliferate. Pruning them back doesn't imply hate or malice. It simply recognizes your responsibility to maintain an environment where you and the beneficial plants around you can flourish. The boundary setting guided by Stoic principles can be compassionate, logical, and necessary. A key technique suggested by the ancient Stoics, particularly by Epictetus, involves continuous self-examination. Ask yourself, does this person's behavior impede my progress toward virtue and tranquility? If the answer is yes, reflect on whether you can redirect or mitigate the harmful impact. Perhaps a direct conversation can lead to constructive change, or gentle reframing might help them see their behavior from another angle. If improvements fail to materialize and the negative influence persists, you have a Stoic mandate to preserve your inner well-being. It's worth reiterating that setting boundaries does not necessarily equate to severing ties altogether, though that too can be an option in extreme cases. It might involve spending less time with a friend who always complains, or politely declining to participate in gossip with a drama seeker. These small acts of self-preservation allow you to remain open-hearted and empathetic in the times you do engage, rather than feeling drained or resentful. In essence, you transform your relationships from sources of tension into more measured connections that either revolve around healthier exchanges or at least do not perpetuate misery. As we move forward, we will delve deeper into how to apply Stoic wisdom in day-to-day contexts, work, family life, and social circles, and how the simple power of no can create a positive ripple effect in our emotional health. In the next paragraph, we will segue into understanding how no fits into the broader Stoic concept of conscious choice and acceptance of life's uncontrollable dimensions. One of the cornerstones of Stoic wisdom is recognizing the boundary between what we can control and what lies beyond it. This is often referred to as the dichotomy of control. Within this framework, it becomes evident that we have significant influence over our own thoughts, choices, and reactions, yet we hold little sway over others' behaviors or the unpredictability of external events. This philosophical stance shapes the way we approach the types of people we have discussed. Even if we can't force a chronic complainer to adopt a sunnier outlook or transform a drama seeker into a source of calm, we can govern how much their negativity impacts us. Saying no occupies an integral role here because it draws a definitive line around what we are willing and unwilling to absorb into our personal sphere. The act of refusing to participate in gossip, negativity, or manipulative schemes affirms our commitment to upholding our personal values. It also reinforces the Stoic principle that genuine power lies within our reasoned decisions rather than our ability to micromanage the conduct of others. By exercising this power, you avoid the frustration that stems from attempting to coerce changes in another person's deeply ingrained habits. Instead, you channel your energies where they can bear fruit, within yourself. However, Stoicism also reminds us to remain compassionate in the face of human struggles. Many of the challenging behaviors we've listed, be they envy, fear, or even narcissism, are often byproducts of deeper hurts or cognitive distortions. Though this awareness does not mean you must endure unending toxicity, it encourages a sense of empathy that shapes the manner in which you set boundaries. For instance, politely explaining why you can't entertain a manipulative request can leave room for the other person to reflect rather than feeling publicly shamed. In some cases, your personal example might serve as a catalyst for positive transformation. By consistently responding to negativity with calm, by declining to indulge drama, or by showing unwavering integrity when faced with manipulation, you illustrate a different way of being. While there's no guarantee that others will change, Stoicism posits that we should still act according to virtue and reason, independent of the outcomes. As Marcus Aurelius observed, we should waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. Therefore, the Stoic approach to saying no is not merely defensive, it is proactive. You safeguard your mental environment so that it can remain fertile ground for virtues like courage, humility, patience, and wisdom. This environment not only benefits you, but often extends positivity and clarity to those in your orbit who are open to it. In the next section, Part 3, we will further examine the practical steps to implement these boundaries in everyday situations. We'll also discuss how the act of saying no resonates beyond your immediate circle, contributing to a larger culture that values authenticity, introspection, and well-being. Putting Stoic theory into everyday action can feel daunting, especially if you've become accustomed to appeasing or tolerating these challenging personality types. Yet, even small, mindful adjustments can significantly enhance your emotional stability. First, identify your emotional triggers. Notice how you feel before, during, and after interactions with people who complain incessantly or manipulate you. Self-awareness, a key Stoic practice, allows you to anticipate when your composure might be tested. By predicting potential pressure points, you can plan your responses ahead of time and exercise in pre-meditatio malorum that helps you navigate moments of crisis with greater poise. Next, establish clear, firm boundaries that reflect both your sense of compassion and your commitment to self-preservation. If you have a coworker who is frequently irresponsible and drops tasks on you at the last minute, you might send a polite but unambiguous message the next time it happens. I'm afraid I can't handle your deadline today, as I already have commitments that occupy my schedule. Delivering this message calmly and without apology exemplifies the Stoic ideal of abiding by reason rather than succumbing to guilt or social pressure. For more complex situations like dealing with a manipulative family member, begin by clarifying what you will and will not tolerate. For instance, if you notice recurring attempts to guilt trip you into doing favors, you could respond, "I hear that you're in need, but I'm not able to commit right now. Let's talk about solutions that don't rely solely on me." Such a statement affirms that while you acknowledge the issue, you are not an infinite resource or a perpetual fallback. Additionally, remember that technology often extends the reach of these challenging personalities. Online platforms can become breeding grounds for envy, drama, and toxic positivity. Stoicism calls for a conscious use of social media. Set time limits. Unfollow accounts that incite destructive emotions in you, and refrain from engaging in digital arguments that have no constructive resolution. Observing how you feel after scrolling through certain feeds can help you decide whether or not it's wise to continue that virtual association. Finally, track your progress. Stoicism is deeply rooted in daily reflection. Marcus Aurelius consistently used his personal journal to examine his thoughts and actions. In a modern context, you could note the instances where you successfully upheld your boundary and the times you struggled. Reflect on any patterns that emerge. Perhaps certain communication styles work better, or maybe setting boundaries in writing is more effective than verbal discussions. Over time, you'll refine an approach tailored to each challenging personality type. By weaving these practical strategies into the fabric of your life, you transform Stoic wisdom from abstract philosophy into a functional toolkit for emotional well-being. This methodical approach underscores the Stoic notion that continual practice, rather than one-time effort, leads to mastery. As you perfect boundary-setting skills, you'll likely observe positive changes not only in your personal peace, but also in how others treat you. In the subsequent paragraphs, we'll explore how Stoicism guides us to uphold these boundaries with empathy and grace, ensuring that no becomes a statement rooted in both kindness and self-respect. When you assert a boundary and say no to negativity, it can sometimes feel abrupt or confrontational, especially if you've previously been inclined toward people-pleasing. Stoicism, however, offers a nuanced path. Maintain a baseline of empathy while safeguarding your well-being. This duality is possible if we view empathy not as a passive acceptance of harm, but as a willing recognition of another's perspective paired with rational discernment about how best to engage. For instance, if a friend who consistently complains about life's challenges confronts you with their usual grievances, you can start by expressing genuine understanding. "It sounds like you've had a tough day," before pivoting, "I'd be happy to discuss solutions if you're interested, but if not, I think it's best we change the subject." This response validates their emotional state without allowing the conversation to spiral into a negativity vortex. By offering a constructive angle, you stand by your Stoic commitment to rational action. If they decline or become defensive, you have a clear signal to extricate yourself. Similarly, with someone who is manipulative, your empathy can manifest as acknowledging their stress or predicament without succumbing to their tactics. For example, you might say, "I see you're under pressure and I want to help where I can, but I have limits. Let's find a way that respects both our capacities." The underlying message is, "I care, but I won't be coerced." Empathy here does not equate to unconditional compliance. It is simply a willingness to see their emotional situation for what it is, while still preserving your agency. This form of empathic boundary setting aligns with Stoic teachings about virtue. Virtue includes temperance, the practice of moderation and self-control in all facets of life. Compassion can and should coexist with personal boundaries. Indeed, a world run solely by self-interest and guarded rejections lacks the communal support that Stoicism sees as natural to human society. However, a world where negative behaviors endlessly encroach upon the mental and emotional space of the well-intentioned leads to burnout and disillusionment. Stoicism guides us to find the middle path, where kindness and self-respect reinforce rather than contradict each other. Moreover, empathic boundary setting can sometimes pave the way for meaningful breakthroughs in your relationships. If someone recognizes that their negativity or manipulative actions are causing people they care about to withdraw, they may gradually reconsider their behavior. Such change, if it happens, stems from their own reflection, not from you lecturing them into transformation. Stoicism reminds us to act in harmony with our values, not to impose them forcibly on others. In summary, integrating empathy into your boundaries ensures that your no remains a thoughtful, balanced stance rather than a harsh dismissal. It respects the reality that others have their challenges while upholding your own need for mental clarity. This synergy of empathy and self-protection underscores the broader Stoic ethos of leading a life guided by both reason and moral concern for others. Next, we will delve into how saying no fosters personal growth and resilience, enhancing your capacity to meet life's unforeseen challenges. The act of saying no, far from being purely defensive, can serve as a potent catalyst for personal development. Every time you reject a request that compromises your integrity or exit a draining conversation, you affirm your dedication to living in accordance with Stoic principles. This consistent assertion of agency teaches you to rely on your internal moral and emotional compass, rather than external validation or pressure. Over time, this strengthens your resilience, the ability to cope calmly and effectively with unexpected hurdles. Consider how resilience is built in physical training. By subjecting muscles to incremental challenges and allowing rest for recovery, the body becomes stronger. Similarly, practicing no in relationships is like a mental and emotional workout. Early on, you may stumble. You might feel guilt-tripped by manipulators or get pulled back into a drama seeker's orbit. Yet, each instance where you hold to your boundary fosters a habit of self-trust, allowing you to remain centered in more demanding scenarios. This mental fortitude is crucial for weathering all manner of life's storms, from professional setbacks to personal losses. Moreover, resilience cultivates adaptability, which is a cornerstone of Stoic thought. Life is in constant flux, and each day presents new complexities. If you're resilient, you're more capable of shifting gears when circumstances demand a change in routine or perspective. For example, a highly manipulative person in your life might switch tactics or ramp up emotional plea because you've trained yourself to respond from a position of calm self-awareness. Their sudden change of approach won't throw you off balance. Instead, you adapt, maintaining your boundary with grace. Another aspect of personal growth emerges from your increased emotional bandwidth. When you're not preoccupied with enduring negativity or extricating yourself from toxic entanglements, you have more mental space for creative pursuits, healthy relationships, or philanthropic endeavors. The energy once drained by chronic complainers or drama seekers can be redirected toward constructive activities that align with your sense of purpose. Seneca advocated the careful stewardship of one's time, cautioning that we all complain of the shortness of time and yet have much more than we know what to do with. By refusing to let negativity devour your hours, you effectively reclaim them for meaningful endeavors. On a broader scale, each time you model assertive, respectful boundary setting, you become an example for others within your social or professional circles. People who witness your calm resolve may begin to emulate it, thereby amplifying the ripple effect of Stoic principles. Rather than feeling powerless in the face of negativity, you inspire others to stand firm in their own convictions. Over time, this fosters a communal atmosphere of respect and authenticity. Thus, saying no is not merely about shutting out the toxic, it is an act of forging inner strength, freeing up emotional capacity, and indirectly encouraging healthier social dynamics. It's a crucial piece in the puzzle of living a balanced, purposeful life. In the following paragraphs, we will consider how Stoic-inspired boundaries can also address the modern complexities of digital communication, social media, and a world increasingly interconnected yet prone to pervasive negativity. In an era of widespread social media usage, the influence of negative or manipulative personalities can extend far beyond face-to-face encounters. Platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok can facilitate near-constant exposure to complainers, drama seekers, and materialistic displays. These digital interactions carry distinct challenges. One can be bombarded by someone's envy-laden posts or drawn into petty online quarrels that sap emotional energy without offering genuine resolution. The barrage of curated content can also inflate feelings of inadequacy, fueling envy or unnecessary comparisons. Stoicism's enduring teachings, however, can help us navigate these modern terrains with mindfulness and self-control. The principle of controlling your reactions rather than external events translates seamlessly into limiting your screen time, curating your feed, and refraining from engaging in toxic debates. You might choose to silently unfollow or mute individuals who perpetually complain or manipulate. Doing so is the digital equivalent of saying no to their negative influence. It does not necessarily mean harboring ill will toward them. It merely recognizes that your mental well-being is a priority. Furthermore, be mindful of your own online conduct, ensuring you don't unconsciously adopt drama-seeking or materialistic tendencies. Consider whether your posts are inspired by genuine self-expression or motivated by a subtle desire for validation or envy-stirring. A Stoic approach to social media might include reflecting on the purpose behind each post or comment. Is it aligned with reason, authenticity, and compassion? Or does it serve to feed a personal ego or incite unnecessary controversy? By adopting a deliberate posting strategy, you become an active participant rather than a reactive presence in the digital sphere. Online echo chambers can also magnify certain harmful personality traits. If you frequently interact with complainers, you might find your feed dominated by complaints. If your network consists largely of the materialistic, you'll be bombarded with consumerist messages, which can subtly erode contentment. Epictetus's warning that we become like the company we keep applies as much to digital communities as to real-life ones. Hence, diversifying your digital influences can be a purposeful step. Follow accounts that promote rational thinking, creativity, positivity, balanced by realism and constructive discussion. Even in online disputes, Stoicism's recommendation of calm detachment serves well. Instead of engaging in heated arguments with a stranger who thrives on drama, consider whether it is a situation you can resolve meaningfully. If not, a gracious exit might be the most stoic move. Thank you for sharing your perspective. I have expressed mine. Can be enough to bow out. This approach spares you the mental drain of repeated back-and-forth confrontation. Ultimately, the Stoic system is remarkably adaptable to modern technology precisely because it addresses universal human tendencies rather than being confined to ancient times. Whether face-to-face or through the screen, negativity and manipulative behavior remain potent forces, but so do empathy, rational boundary setting, and personal virtue. By integrating these principles across digital and real-life platforms, you maintain a unified, resilient identity, one that is guided by wisdom rather than buffeted by external circumstances. Next, let's examine how these principles ripple out into personal relationships and broader social connections. Saying no to destructive behaviors doesn't only preserve individual tranquility, it can also have a profound impact on the overall health of your social circles, be they friendships, families, workplaces, or volunteer organizations. Over time, each small, seemingly personal decision to set a boundary contributes to a culture where respect and rational discourse flourish. Imagine a family gathering where certain members typically generate tension through backhanded compliments or manipulative comments. If one person consistently responds with firm but polite redirection, "I'm not comfortable with that tone, let's discuss something more constructive," others might see a new precedent. This collective shift resonates with Marcus Aurelius's writings on communal living. While we each have our own paths, we also share responsibility for how we influence our immediate environment. Taking the initiative to refuse gossip or negativity not only strengthens your moral fiber, but can subtly encourage others to do the same. People who witness you calmly rebuff disrespect may gain the courage to adopt similar boundaries. Over time, the entire group dynamic evolves, reducing toxic cycles and fostering more meaningful exchanges. In friendships, especially long-standing ones, the dynamics can be deeply ingrained. You may face resistance or confusion when you first begin to assert boundaries that previously went unspoken. A friend accustomed to venting incessantly or pushing their agenda might be taken aback by your newfound self-possession. Transparency can help ease this transition. Explain that you value the friendship and that you're not withdrawing affection or support, but you are seeking a more balanced way of relating. Such honesty can clear misunderstandings and lay the groundwork for healthier communication patterns. In professional settings, boundaries informed by Stoic wisdom can bolster teamwork and productivity. Instead of tolerating irresponsible colleagues who habitually pass their duties to others, A Stoic no clarifies roles and prevents burnout. By channeling composure, you also demonstrate leadership qualities: calm under pressure, a rational approach to conflict resolution, and the moral fortitude to stand up for fair treatment. Managers in particular who embody these traits can set the tone for an entire team, thereby reducing turnover and workplace grievances. However, there will be occasions when others simply refuse to adapt. Certain individuals might respond with escalation or hostility if they sense that their manipulative or negative tactics no longer hold power. In these instances, the best recourse might be to minimize interaction or disengage from the relationship altogether. While Stoicism encourages compassion, it also asserts that virtue should not be sacrificed to maintain a peace that is merely superficial. As Epictetus cautioned, we have to be vigilant about our own moral and emotional state, ensuring that we do not slip into complicity with harmful behavior under the guise of tolerance. Thus, the ripple effect of no extends from the personal to the collective, reshaping the social fabric one interaction at a time. It begins as an inner commitment to preserving your well-being, but if practiced consistently, it can promote healthier, more authentic connections around you. In the paragraphs to come, we'll crystallize the key Stoic strategies and conclude with an invitation to apply these lessons in your daily life. By now, we've journeyed through a comprehensive look at how Stoicism can guide our interactions with the 10 challenging personality types: complainers, manipulators, the egotistical, the irresponsible, the envious, the materialistic, the fearful, the toxically positive, the narcissistic, and the drama seekers. Let us distill the essence of the Stoic strategies we've covered. Self-awareness and mindful observation. Before addressing external negativity, the first step is to understand your own emotional triggers. Regular self-reflection, much like Marcus Aurelius practiced in his meditations, enables you to identify where and how these interactions unsettle you. Empathic yet firm boundaries. Stoicism encourages compassion for others' struggles without sacrificing your inner stability. Whether dealing with a chronic complainer or a manipulator, your boundary statements should be clear, calm, and respectful of both parties. Focus on what's in your control. Epictetus's dichotomy of control remains central. You cannot remake a drama seeker into a pillar of calm, but you can remove yourself from their theatrics, or refuse to engage with it, thus protecting your emotional terrain. Premeditation and prepared responses. The practice of premeditatio malorum helps you prepare for potentially toxic encounters. By anticipating the possible pitfalls, a guilt trip, a wave of envy, or excessive positivity that denies reality, you can rehearse composed and rational responses in advance. Adjusting to adjusting or exiting dynamics. A repeated theme is the willingness to shift your engagement level, whether by reducing time spent with certain individuals or exiting toxic digital spaces. Such strategic withdrawals reaffirm that your mental well-being is non-negotiable. Daily reflection and continuous refinement. Setting boundaries is not a one-time fix, but an ongoing learning process. By routinely assessing which strategies worked and which did not, you refine your approach over time, cultivating the resilience Stoicism values so highly. Through these strategies, saying no emerges as a tool of self-affirmation rather than rejection. It's a commitment to live authentically, ensuring your precious mental resources are devoted to relationships and pursuits that align with your values. This is the Stoic version of happiness, a deep-seated contentment that arises from integrity and rational self-governance. Crucially, remember that these boundaries and strategies are not forms of aggression. They are instruments of self-care that preserve your capacity for empathy and contribution. When negativity oversteps its bounds, you respond with reason and compassion, both for yourself and for those who might eventually learn from your example. In the final paragraphs, we will tie these concepts together, revisit the importance of community and collective support, and offer a closing reflection on how saying no can ultimately become an empowering yes to a life guided by wisdom, virtue, and enduring peace. As you apply these Stoic-inspired strategies, you might notice a shift not just in how you feel, but also in how people respond to you. Clarity and composure tend to command respect, even from those initially resistant to boundaries. You might also attract individuals who value open, growth-oriented dialogue, forging deeper connections rooted in mutual understanding. In essence, learning to say no to negativity reconfigures the gravitational field of your social world, pulling in people and opportunities that resonate with your truer, calmer self. This journey, however, is seldom linear. You may encounter setbacks, particularly when dealing with deeply entrenched behaviors such as manipulation or narcissism. On challenging days, remind yourself of the broader Stoic context. Adversity is a natural part of existence, and each difficulty is an invitation to practice virtue. If you falter and find yourself entangled in drama or overshadowed by envy, engage in self-forgiveness. The Stoics never promised perfection. They advocated persistent effort to bridge the gap between our current selves and the ideal of the wise person. Moreover, seeking a supportive community can be transformative. While classical Stoic philosophers often practiced introspection, they also benefited from dialogue with peers and mentors. In our modern world, you might join online forums or local Stoic meetups, or form reading groups with friends interested in practical philosophy. These groups can serve as safe spaces to discuss challenges, share experiences, and celebrate breakthroughs in boundary setting. Beyond Stoicism-specific circles, you might find fulfillment in volunteer groups, artistic collectives, or mindfulness retreats. Any environment where genuine respect and healthy exchanges are nurtured. The power of community extends to mentorship and role models. If you know someone who navigates life's conflicts with grace, learn from their strategies. Observe how they communicate boundaries and practice emotional regulation. Mentors need not be official teachers. Anyone who embodies Stoic virtues in daily life can spark personal insight. Conversely, you might become that mentor for someone else, perhaps a friend overwhelmed by a manipulative sibling or a colleague struggling to set limits with an irresponsible boss. By sharing the Stoic perspective, you offer them a path to reclaim their agency. Lastly, don't underestimate the motivational force of incremental successes. The first time you gracefully but firmly turn down a drama seeker's invitation to needless conflict, you might feel a sense of liberation. Let that feeling fuel your resolve. Each boundary upheld, each mindful refusal, underscores your capacity to shape your environment rather than be shaped by it. As these victories accumulate, they become a self-reinforcing cycle, embedding Stoic ideals ever more deeply into your daily living. In the final paragraph, we'll reaffirm how saying no encapsulates a profound affirmation. By safeguarding your peace and nurturing your own development, you simultaneously contribute to a more harmonious social fabric, aligning your personal growth with the collective good. In closing, it's fitting to circle back to the Stoic assertion that external conditions, whether fleeting fortune, ever-shifting social landscapes, or the varied personalities we meet, cannot determine our internal state unless we permit them. The power to say no to negativity, toxic behavior, and manipulative forces remains an enduring testament to your freedom of choice. Far from being a barricade of cold rejection, each boundary you set is an invitation to live a life rooted in integrity, clarity, and kindness. It is, in many ways, a deeper yes to self-respect, personal evolution, and the relationships that genuinely uplift you. Stoicism guides us to recognize that challenges, be they from the fearful or the drama seekers, are valuable testing grounds for our emerging virtues. Every complaint you reframe positively, every manipulative request you decline with poise, strengthens your capacity for wisdom and self-governance. This incremental honing of moral and emotional clarity grants you the poise to face not just interpersonal tensions but also life's broader adversities, from career upheavals to health setbacks. It's a virtuous circle. The steadier you become internally, the more resilient and empowering your actions become externally. As you carry these insights forward, consider adopting a simple daily check-in routine. Before going to bed or at the start of a new day, briefly reflect on moments when you exercised your stoic no, or conversely, when you succumbed to a draining dynamic. Ask yourself, what prompted my response, and how might I refine it next time? Over weeks and months, this practice of reflective adjustment will embed the boundaries more seamlessly into your personality and strengthen your resolve to maintain them. We also extend an open invitation for you to cultivate a sense of shared wisdom. Share your victories, your hurdles, and your reflections with friends or in Stoic communities, virtual or local, where others can glean encouragement or offer supportive perspectives. Human connection is fundamental, and as Marcus Aurelius reiterated, we are social creatures who thrive in cooperation. When your stories intersect with others, a tapestry of communal resilience and growth emerges. Should you find this approach resonating deeply, further exploration awaits. Engage with Stoic texts, from Seneca's letters to Epictetus's discourses, or modern interpretations that translate ancient philosophy into practical life hacks. Each new layer of understanding will deepen your appreciation for the timeless guidance Stoicism provides in an age that sorely needs thoughtful introspection. So here we stand, reminded that no can safeguard your equilibrium and refine your virtues, and that such a refusal of negativity ultimately affirms a deeper commitment to a meaningful and harmonious existence. We trust this extended exploration of the 10 challenging personality types, illuminated by Stoic teachings, will serve as an enduring resource. Your journey continues with each mindful decision, each boundary respectfully upheld, and each step toward a more tranquil and purposeful life. Thank you for embarking on this voyage of reflection and empowerment. May your practice of Stoicism unfold into profound inner peace and resonant well-being for both yourself and those fortunate enough to share in your presence. Ultimately, every moment you decide to protect your peace and energy is a powerful investment in your happiness and quality of life. Saying no to negativity is not about rejection. It's about choosing authentic joy, emotional clarity, and healthy relationships. We've unpacked the secrets to handling challenging personalities, from the endlessly negative to the overly dramatic, and explored practical wisdom you can apply immediately. Now it's your turn. How have you dealt with these personalities in your own life? Have you discovered strategies or encountered challenges you'd like to share? Drop your experiences in the comments below and let's start a conversation. Your insights could inspire someone else to reclaim their own sense of calm and well-being. And don't forget to subscribe. Together, we'll continue unlocking more practical secrets for living an empowered, balanced life.